Are you one of those people who are afraid to throw out things because you're thinking that perhaps one of these days I'm not going to need them? If that is you, then this video is for you. Hey, this is episode 33, and a very good evening to you, one and all. I know it's late today. It's a Sunday, and it's been a busy day for me. So basically, today I spent a bit of time to kind of throw out some things, and some of the things that I threw out were things that were kind of close to me, and that I've always wanted to kind of keep them. But nonetheless, I decided to make the decision that I can't possibly keep everything with me, and so some things have to go, right? Some things have to go, and so as a result of that, I ended up throwing quite a fair bit of things in my place now, and it looks a lot better, and that I'm glad that so much of the clutter has been cleared, right? And why are we talking about throwing things out here? I mean, it's not the Chinese New Year, so why are we talking about throwing things out here? Well, the thing is as follows, right? I think many of us make excuses, right? Many of us make excuses. So I was on a run. In fact, I just came back from a late night run. I kind of love the late night run. I've always loved it because right after that I feel so good, and just before I go to bed, it's just refreshing. Although sometimes I get into a situation whereby by the time I lie down, I'm no longer tired because I'm so energized. But nonetheless, I just came back from a run, and as I was going on a run, I was actually coached by Coach Bennett, who is one of the coaches from Nike Running Club. And he was saying this, 52, 104, and 156. So if you're wondering what these numbers are, no, these are not the lottery numbers, in case you're wondering. 52, 104, 156. What are these numbers? Well, these numbers actually are, imagine if you say that, well, I do not have time to run, right? And that's an excuse that many of us give ourselves. I do not have the time to fill in the blank. And sometimes all it takes is just, once a week, right? Just once a week to do something that it's important but not urgent, right? Something that is important but not urgent. So think about it, 52, 104, 156. And if you just do, a lot of time, let me say this again, 5104, 156. A lot of time, many of us give ourselves excuses by saying that, oh, I do not have the time to fill in the blank, right? And really, if you could just throw something out, right? Throw something out of your life, an activity that you do, just throw something out so that you can put this activity into your life just once a week. Over the period of 1 year, you would have done it 52 times, right? And if you just do it, 2 times a week, you would have done it 104 times. And if you're just a little bit more conscientious, you put in 3 times a week, you would have clocked in 156 times. Now, this 156 times could be 156 times of run. It could be 156 posts that you make to tell people as well as to show people how you could help them. Well, this 156 could be the number of times where you invest an hour just to better yourself. So, we give ourselves excuses that we do not have the time, but the truth is that we do not make time for it. And once we make time for it, we would be able to put that in. I mean, how long does it take for you to go out there and just go for a run? How long does it take for you to sit down and just draft out a blog post? How long does it take for you to sit down and make a video? How long does it take for you to ask 5 people what are they currently struggling with in their business? Right? So if you just take that one time a week, you would have done 52 times more than someone else who is still thinking about it. Just think about that, right? And a lot of time we think that this small effort that we put in isn't going to amount to much because, I'm just putting in 30 minutes of run once a week. It's not going to amount to much. I don't even feel any different. However, such activity, especially when they are the type that are important but not urgent type of activity, if you consistently put that effort in, it's going to give you the compounding effect. In other words, the first time you do it, you're not going to feel anything at all. Or the first post you put out, you're probably not going to get any views at all. The second post you put out, maybe you get 1 view. The third post you put out, maybe you get another 1 view, right? But if you keep putting it up, after a while, the consistency will signal to people that you're serious about what you do. And if you are able to provide value, then arguably you are going to be the one they're going to pay attention to. Right? So just think about that 52 times. So, is there something that you have been thinking about doing that, you kind of put it off like, I'll do it next week. I'll do it tomorrow. I'm not judging you. I've been there, done that myself. In fact, if I look back in the last 3 years or in the last 5 years, there were so many times where I gave myself excuses after excuses about not getting started on a project. And the project that I'm talking about is my website. A lot of time I've been frustrated with the fact that, I'm putting up all this content, but I'm not getting any traffic at all, right? And that's where it starts to dawn on me that, hey, perhaps the way that I'm doing it is wrong. But when you kind of have that realization, what happens is that you start digging deeper. And if you're not guided, what's going to happen is you are going to feel overwhelmed. And what happens when we feel overwhelmed is, for many of us, we will simply quit. We will simply not do anything at all and kind of revert to what's comfortable or what we have been doing, because why not? It's still giving us some results, probably not as good as previously, but yeah, it's still giving us some results. And we're comfortable. But we have not been willing to push ourselves over the inertia. We're simply not able, willing, hungry enough to want to push ourselves over the inertia. And because of that, we kind of let things slide. We fall back to our comfortable self, and time just goes by like that. And so for the last 3 years, I have been procrastinating, considering, exploring with new WordPress themes, looking at plugins, experimenting with colors, fonts, anything at all, except getting the website up and running and moving on from there. And I'm proud to say that, in the last couple of weeks, I have been able to give myself that boost to get myself to really flesh out a few things. One is, my workflow. What is it that I do? How is it that I do things? What is my thought process like? What are the tools that I use? So if you missed that video, go back to yesterday's video, because that's where I talked about my workflow itself. And if you want to, take a look at that document, that page, you can go to mel.to/workflow, right? So I took, the entire Saturday to just sit down and bang out the page about workflow. And I felt good about it, because at the end of the day, I was able to accomplish that piece and put it out in the wall. And what's going to happen now is I'm able to send people there and tell people like you that, if you have been wondering, what is my mental model like? If you've been wondering, what's my workflow like? If you're wondering, what kind of tools do I use for my live stream, to create my videos, to explore and to do research before I embark on any project, that is the page to visit, right? That is the page to visit. And today, I put together that site, the site of About Me, as well as, Work With Me, right? Because, when I kind of see all the things that I've been doing, sometimes it's a little funny, because, I would meet some people new, and inevitably they would ask me this question. So what do you do? And sometimes I really do not know what to say. The reason why I do not know what to say is that, there isn't really one thing that I do, because I'm not just good at one thing. I actually have the skill set and the bandwidth and the ability to do many things. Now, is that common? No, it is not. Is that possible? Absolutely. But are there, benefits, and are there disadvantages of doing that? Of course. And let's say, having evaluated and understood all the situation, all the possibility, all the benefits and the costs of pursuing multiple things, doesn't mean that you should give it up. And so I've always struggled with that thing about, when people ask me, so what is it that you do? People most of the time were expecting a one sentence answer, like, oh, I am in the IT space, right? Oh, I'm a teacher, right? Oh, I'm a consultant. Oh, I'm a financial advisor, whatever, right? But if you kind of tell people like, or rather, if you ask people like Elon Musk, so what is it that you do? He's not going to tell you one thing. He's going to tell you multiple things. And I personally know quite a number of people who have their hands in many things, and yet they excel in most of it. Not all of it, but most of it. And of course, it is not possible to be doing two things at the same time. But what they typically do is, when they have built something to a level where it is on autopilot, right? Because they have put the systems in place. And so it can run on its own, whether with people that you employ or with technology that you employ. So, whatever the case may be, they have a system that is able to produce a result for them even when they are not there. So, that's one of the things that they do. But at the same time, they are exploring, right? They are exploring different aspects of things. Like, perhaps we could dabble in this, perhaps we could look at that, perhaps we could look at this, and all sorts of things. And the truth of the matter is that many of the things will fail. And that's what, business is all about. Many of these things will fail. But when you find that one thing that succeeds, and you know that you have put your heart and soul into it, man, that thing is going to flourish. So I don't know about you, but I kind of struggle with the fact that when people ask me, what is it that you do? I've always wanted to tell them that they're more than one thing. And so these days, what I've learned is the following. I tell them that, well, I have been a consultant for organizations, small and medium-sized enterprises, and schools for the last 15 years. And that's what I do, right? But at the same time, I'm also looking at, is that a long-term viable solution? I mean, if that was the way that I earned my income, is that same model going to be possible to produce that much of revenue as before? And when I find that the answer for too many days, it's I don't know, that is where I start looking at reinventing myself. And so what I found was the following. I recognized that every 18 months, I would kick into the process of reinventing myself. And so the system that I put in place is that at the start of a year, I would use the first 6 months. Of course, this year is unfortunate, but most of the time what I do is I will take the first 6 months of the first year of this year, the current year, to bring in as much revenue as I can, and preferably to be able to cover me for the next 18 months, so that I know when we go into the 7th month onward, I know that even if I do not get any new business, I am able to at least pull through. I'm able to see myself through for the next 12 months. And so that gives me a lot of, that takes away a lot of stress. And at the same time, that also gives me the ability to experiment, because I know that for the next 12 months, I do not have to worry about income. And so, I'll take the next 3 months talking to people, the next 3 months developing the solutions, the next 3 months, trying it out with them, collecting feedback, so that by the time, 3 quarters down, I'm able to launch something which is fairly good, and yet I've already have, some success stories behind me. And so when I launch, I've always launched with, success stories. I've always launched with case studies, and that has been what I've been doing. And so when I ask myself that question, can this same model works for the next couple of years? And in the answer, it's I do not know for too many days in a row. That is when I start to look at reinventing myself. And so if I could put things into perspective in this current context right now, it has become a little bit of a concern because I would say that the cycle of 18 months has shrunk. It's no longer 18 months. I probably have to do it in 12 months or maybe even in 6 months. And the reason it's not because I'm in a hurry, but it's because changes are so rapid now. It is so rapid that we simply cannot wrap our head around it. And just take, for example, this COVID-19 situation. At one point in time, every day we are getting new development, and that's constantly challenging our assumptions on a daily basis. Because one day we would think that it is fine to go out without a surgical mask. And the next day, we would realize that even with the surgical mask, it's not going to be enough. And then the next day is going to be something else, and the next day is going to be something else. And it's just moved so fast that unless you have been pretty much centered, I think the last couple of weeks or months for some of you would have been a struggle. So if it has been a struggle, I'll be more than glad to talk to you. I'm not perfect. And I haven't got it all figured out, in case you're wondering. But the point of the matter is that, unless we talk, unless we share our experiences, sometimes we think we are the only one. And the truth is, you're not alone. With that, thank you for watching. This is Melvin on the Melvin Live Show. And I'll speak to you on the next one. Bye-bye.